Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button and your membership options will be presented to you. Today is a reaction, my kind of response to different things, reflecting on things for the week is a little bit more informal, and kind of looking back at the week that was, and just kind of giving my personal thoughts, but it's also a time where I get up on my soapbox for a little bit, and you can kind of take that for what it's worth, kind of thing. Just some of my thoughts that I've been having this week. And last week I kind of talked about a little bit about the subject of purity culture and some questions I had about how it affected my life. But also this week has been a week of incredibly rapid growth for the channel. And so I felt, rather than responding to comments, there were so many comments this week. I think I tried to count it, but I lost count at 800 comments or something. There's on my video just to Pastor Joe, there's well over 500 at last time I looked. So probably even more than that now. And the growth of the channel has been such a phenomenal thing, and I want to talk about that. So instead of responding to individual comments or a few comments here and there that I normally would do, I'm really actually going to do an FAQ, kind of frequently asked questions about the channel and about myself, and we'll talk more about that once I get done with the purity culture issue. But I want to simply talk about the subject of how purity culture still affects me today, even to this day, even after deconversion. And the one thing I'm learning in therapy is how when we're young and when we're teenagers and young adults, we tend to form a lot of the neural pathways in our brain. And then once that happens, it starts to, it becomes harder and harder as we go. There's a thing called neuroplasticity, where we have only so much change is allowed the older and older we get. And so there's some things, like I've openly admitted in therapy sessions and even on this channel on a couple occasions, that there may be some things that I cannot change about myself, even after all the rational realizations of, things. And purity culture is one of those things. Now, for those of you who may be around the world watching this video, I got to explain what purity culture is to a certain extent. Purity culture is, and I don't know if it's exclusive to Western Christianity, maybe, and other Christianities around the world may still have similar things about purity culture. But when I was growing up as a teenager, in fact, I think the first aspect of purity culture really hit my life when I was about 11, 12 years old, because you're starting to move into adolescence, and so the parents start to panic and freak out about it. And so my parents handed me a book called Almost 12. I don't even know who wrote it, but it was basically a sexual primer and what God said about sexuality according to the people that wrote the book. And I say that, the end of that book about what God said about it, was really a purity culture thing. In other words, for instance, one of the principles in that book I remember is you're not really dating for the purpose of enjoyment. You're not dating for the purpose of, just, trying to figure out, relationships and things like that. What you're doing is you're dating for the purpose of matrimony. You're looking at who your spouse is going to be and focusing on that. So when you go on a date, the question you're constantly asking is, what is the long-term goal of this relationship? Is this person good spouse material? Okay, in other words. And, all of the things that go along with that. Okay, so you're right out of the gate when you're asking questions and talking to this potential person based on whether or not they'd be a good match for you matrimonially wise. And I think that's the real core of purity culture is the sexual expression part, but also the long-term goal of it, okay? And part of that courting stuff is also, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. So you always have this mentality of, I can only date Christians. I can only date Christians of my particular denomination in some cases. And in my case, it was all Christians, but I knew a few fundamentalists more along the lines of, no, you have to stay in the faith. And certain other Christian sects and cults also have this notion of just staying within the faith. You also see that dislike, like Protestant, Catholic, Orthodoxy still has that issue. A lot of Catholic families, for instance, don't like you to marry Protestants, and Protestants don't like Catholics, and Orthodox people don't seem to like anybody. And so it's just like there's this round and round circle with that too. And so purity culture has a slight effect, I think, in all Christianity for sure that I know of, and probably other religions. With Islam, the issues are different because women don't usually have a lot of choice in who they marry, and men are the ones making the negotiations for that. So that's a whole different packle of woods. But in purity culture, because Western culture also allows you to kind of, pick your spouse and pick who you date, and the parents don't have a lot of things to do with it, the Christian response is purity culture. And of course, the second element of this is sexual purity, that sex is not for enjoyment, is actually taught by some of them, that it's purely for procreative purposes, that, you can't just have sex to have sex, okay? You can't just enjoy it and enjoy, coupling or being a partner with somebody. You have this sexual expression is taboo. And in my particular brand of Christianity, what sexual expression, where to draw the line, okay, before you went too far was a big issue. In some cases, it's holding hands. In some cases, it's, putting your arms around each other, kissing, and, petting and all this other stuff became a debatable point. Oral satisfaction became a debatable point in some cases. And the problem with that, of course, is the whole guilt thing. And of course, Jesus has to introduce the whole idea of lusting after somebody, and pornography issues become an issue. And all of that becomes this stay away, don't touch, keep it to yourself kind of thing. And that this long-term dating, limited pool, sexual purity thing gets pressed in to your brain. And of course, they uphold this, that God's ordained thing for sexuality is one man, one woman in the bond of matrimony for life, which is a completely single option. Okay, that's all purity culture gives you. And also, so any kind of different arrangements about that are not right, which I challenged even as a theist, because the Bible has, polygamy all the way through it. The more I studied the Bible, the one thing I noted is that there is no prohibition against a woman having more than one husband, by the way. Go look for it, you won't find it. You don't have any examples of it in the Bible. You sure have a lot of examples the other way, but polygamy is definitely in the Bible. Whether group or line marriages or anything like that are in there is not. And of course, LGBTQ issues were always there. You weren't allowed to be outside that norm. If you were a man, you had to be a heterosexual man looking for one woman. And if you were a woman, you were a heterosexual girl, you were looking for one man. That's it. Okay, and then of course on top of that, some denominations have this, anything outside of that is sinful, and they look down on homosexuals and trans and all the rest of it. So there's a heavy, dose of that in this video today, because I want you to understand purity culture, because I want you to understand a little bit how it still affects me to this day. And I was talking with my therapist on Wednesday about this, because dating has become an issue for me, because I can't seem to get past the first date, and I can't control what the date does. In some cases, maybe it's on them, but I'm not going to assume that. I'm going to assume that I have to take control of what I can control in the relationship, and maybe I'm the problem, okay? And I'm not the problem because I'm a sinner. I'm the problem because of purity culture. And one of the things we talked about, I spent about half hour of my hour session with her talking about this issue. Actually, it's more like 50 minutes. So I spent like 30 minutes most of the session talking about this issue because I want to dive back into dating again, but I also don't want to have these issues. And one of the things that still affects me is I would sit down at the first date, and probably why it hasn't got, my whole focus was, would this person be a good partner long term? I mean, my brain immediately switches to that. Instead of living in the moment, instead of enjoying the moment, instead of being with this person and just, having a good time and enjoying it and saying, hey, am I attracted to this person? The normal step-by-steps in a relationship that we talk about today when you're outside the church don't exist in purity culture. You skip all those steps and go right to, is this person a good partner? Are they going to be a good long-term relationship as a spouse? Instead of, okay, am I enjoying this person? What are these characters that I like about this person? Am I attracted to them? Am I physically attracted to them? Instead of acting through all of these things, my brain during a date was automatically switching to the long term, and that's not necessarily a good thing when you're first starting out. You can grow into that and you can develop into that. I'm not saying that that's not the thing, but also, there's this aspect of accepting somebody, simply for their long-term capability. And that really limits down your pool, especially if you also have the mentality, like I was still looking for people that were non-believers. And I'm realizing that's a purity culture thing too, because it's purity culture that says to limit the pool in which you can find that spouse or that person you can be with. And what that does is it really causes you to have these standards in your brain where you're constantly limiting down who you will accept. And it really is a thing of, can I be the better person and accept people's beliefs or non-belief outside myself? Like I'm an atheist. Can I accept a believer? Can I accept somebody who is more spiritual? Can I accept somebody, and given the nature of that question, can I open myself up to those kind of relationships because of other factors? If it's not a big deal for them, why is it a big deal for me? Okay, basically. And that's a holdover from purity culture, training my brain to categorize people and say, this is the way it is. The other issue that I think I have is the sex for enjoyment issue, because even as an atheist, I have maintained I didn't want my body count to be that high. I still think that that's a good thing from a social point of view, because we do have words for people on both sexes or any sex that you are, that all of this is different, okay? And so, we have words for those people. The ones for women aren't that flattering, and the ones for men aren't much more flattering either. So we'll see, but at the same time, the idea that a relationship could get to a point where, sex is just there for enjoyment, but you can see that the relationship isn't going there any long term. Why is that a thing? And then, of course, I never really got to talk to her about the poly issue. I'll probably try to do that next session. But can I accept people like, could I date a woman who is bisexual? Because then I would realize I would want her to have some other, I wouldn't want to limit her in, her pursuit of the other side of the equation for her. I wouldn't want her to deny part of her sexuality simply because I'm not. Okay, and so opening up my brain to more of the possibilities of what could be a relationship is a real struggle, and that is a holdover from purity culture. It's this, continual idea that sex is icky unless it's in one context, and that relationships can be only one thing, still affects the way I look at things, even as an atheist and a secularist, because there's still this limited thing. I continue to explore my own sexuality. I'm still very heterosexual. I've never really, I've had a few homosexual encounters in my life, and I didn't come away from it with the, like, it's icky. It was more of a meh feeling, like it just didn't light my fire as much as women do. So that's kind of where I'm at. And so opening myself up to other types of relationships and things like that are still very much in front of me. And so is the holdover from purity culture, how it still affects me today is I'm immediately trying to categorize this person instead of enjoying them, living in the moment, and figuring out whether or not, there's something between us to even start with. Okay, and the purity culture thing makes you leap right to the end of the game instead of playing the beginning game and the middle game and getting to it. If I can use a chess analogy, instead of looking at that and saying, "Hey, do we work out?" And even the conflict area of a chess analogy, it's not a conflict. Okay, it's not a battle. I think that's kind of a holdover in our society with the whole feminist MGTOW thing back and forth. Is we've turned our society into this us versus them mentality that dominates. Well, where does that come from? If not from religion, okay? If not from, this notion of belief, and you got to have somebody of your similar beliefs and things like that. I know some couples, one's a diehard liberal and the other one's a conservative, and, vote for different people at presidential elections and still have a very loving, caring relationship with each other because there's other things besides those things. And getting past, I think the way purity culture is organized, it really reinforces the tribalism. And that's not good for society, and particularly in this issue. So kind of opening up a lot of things and how I express myself is how purity culture still affects me. And so, I can't stop necessarily thinking those thoughts at the beginning of a date, but as my therapist said, you can recognize that you're having them and shift gears, can deliberately shift gears. And then it kind of goes back to my video earlier this week about meditation, because I've spent some time, formally meditating on this issue, which answers, some of the other great questions that I'll have later in this thing, some frequently asked questions. So we'll see. But that's kind of my soapbox for today. I'd be interested in some of your comments on the purity culture thing and how it affects you to this day, even if you're deconverted. I would be very interested in hearing what you would have to say, because any helpful advice is always helpful. A large reason why I do this channel is to support deconverted people in these issues. So there's that. All right, I want to get into the frequently asked questions part of this. And so if you're not interested in this part, you were just looking at the purity culture thing and how it affects us, you can stop the video here. But if you're interested in more things about the channel and myself, some of the things I get the most often, the motive for this, guys, is I have literally had over 750 new subscribers this week. I went and picked out, 7 days, and it has been, since I dropped my video last week on Saturday, it has just been a rapid growth thing that I just did not expect. And, I'm definitely going to probably start getting paid for doing this, because YouTube makes you wait until you have at least $100 before they do all the tax paperwork here. And so, it's just been overwhelming to me. I want to thank all of you new subscribers, but I also want to give you some of the a quick rundown on the history of the channel and some of the things that I'm facing now with the channel, some of the things that I expect here as a host of a channel, and then some frequently asked questions about myself. So, and just things that are normal questions about my faith and my experience. So, a lot of my faith and experience is in my deconversion story, but we'll deal with that in a minute. But about the channel, questions about the channel. This channel started in 2020. I had a comment about, oh, look, another atheist YouTuber. Isn't this so last year? And it's like, no, it's 4 years ago. I started this channel in January 2020. There's some OG subscribers around here. You'll see them, with the little heart symbol above them and the subscribe button thing above them as well. At least I do. But these are people that have been around, like Jenna and Freebird of Reason, Aloha, and Jackie I saw recently posted. I haven't seen her in a while, but she's one of the OGs. There's just a whole bunch of people that were my original subscribers back then in the first year or two, and this channel grew very, very slowly. I've gotten more subscribers in the last week than I got in the first, 3.5 years of the channel. So it's been kind of a overwhelming thing. The YouTube algorithm gods are definitely, playing nice with me right now, and I'm going to take it. But I started this channel more as a way to vent my deconversion issues. And then later on, I kind of developed a mission. And I have a twofold mission, which is to normalize both atheism and deconversion. And the reason I say that is because atheists, like one of the stats I like to give about atheists is in a poll, people were asked, which one would you be more upset about if you heard a family member was about to marry them, a fundamentalist Christian or an atheist? And it didn't matter what the political persuasion was. It didn't matter what the religious persuasion it was of a person. But people had a stronger negative reaction by quite a bit towards the atheist compared to the fundamentalist Christian. It's that kind of bigotry and prejudice. And I think this is why I have, like last week, I talked about why I'm so tired of the moral argument. Because the moral argument is also used as a political tool and a social tool to diminish what atheists think, and say. It's deliberately designed, in my opinion, in part, to undercut, the value of atheists and what they contribute to society simply because they're atheists, And so it tires me the most, and it's one of the quickest ones that'll get me angry, too, when the discussion goes down that vein. And so I have created this channel with that mission to normalize atheism and normalize the fact that deconversion is a thing. I try to do videos 5 days a week on this stuff, minimum. In fact, I'm probably going to make a programming change after I'm done with my reconstruction story, which will end next week. And then the week after that, you'll probably see the Rabyd Reflections move into Friday, and I'm going to move reconstruction, deconstruction to Wednesday only. And that's because, I'm trying to free up some time for myself on the weekend so I can relax a little bit more instead of worrying about this channel so much. Because I have other things that I want to get done this year, like I want to get back into writing, so I'm making that small change. But, if you want programming notes, Reaction Monday, I do a Bible study on Tuesday on one of 3 topics right now. I hit deconstruction on Wednesday, and soon reconstruction will be added to that too, because a lot of issues you deconstruct, and then you have to immediately switch to how do I reconstruct this? And so deconstruction and reconstruction actually connect together, so I wanted to start talking more along those lines. And then Thursday is the running discussion about the existence of God, and then Friday I get up on my soapbox for some issue, and then deal with some comments. That's kind of the programming. And to me, this is a running discussion designed to normalize atheism and normalize deconversion, And if you're a deconverted person, this is a brave space, not a safe space. It's a brave space for you. You can be as brave about your deconstruction, your reconstruction, your deconversion for whatever faith you are here. And I am here to protect you, And anybody who's a member of this channel, that's you, ASO64, and if you're a longtime subscriber, defend these people, back them up, because they need the community to kind of back them up, and that's the tenor of this channel. It is not for theists necessarily, unless you're the kind of theist that's coming in here to genuinely understand atheism and understand what we're doing. This is the mission of this channel. If you want to support that mission, I have membership. Membership helps a channel far more than ad revenue, If you believe in what the mission of this channel is, I always appreciate more members and more subscribers. Everything helps. But membership really gives me that steady income that allows me to focus on doing what you guys enjoy and love the most, instead of just trying to appease the YouTube algorithm all the time. I'm going to do that eventually where ad revenue is a good thing, but, if you want steady, consistent, that's where it's at. Part of the issue also is technical issues. I get a lot of talks about sound and video quality and things that are choppy and the echoey nature sometimes. Some people have more sensitive ears than I do, and I don't always pick up on that stuff, so I'm always welcoming feedback, but you need to understand the setup here. I live in an apartment. I have somebody over me. I have somebody to the side of me. that direction. And so sometimes there are barking dogs. I live in town, so there's street noises. I'm recording in my living room, basically in a corner of it. I do have some light coming in through a window off to the side that's sunlight related. But other than that, it's kind of dark in here, so I have to light everything up myself. A lot of people have complained about that. The sound quality issues, I think, have been helped with the microphone. A lot of that seems to be the case. But I am a guy who sits behind a microphone, who talks into a camera, and talks about various issues. That is the nature of this channel. And so, I'm thinking about intros, outros, and all the other technical editing things, but I'm not sure that I'm ready for that. And a large part of that is the hardware. I'm dealing with a laptop that is 5-year-old technology. It's a gaming laptop, so it was top of the line 5 years ago, but it's not anymore. And so sometimes it struggles to keep up. Sometimes I definitely have storage issues. A lot of my older videos are long deleted off of this computer, so they're saved on YouTube. Things like that. So, getting new hardware is a big thing for me. That's some of where the money will go. Whatever money I make off this channel is probably a 50-50 split. Half of it to go to make my life easier, to pay my bills easier so I have less stress. And the other half to building, investing back in the channel to make it, make my technology a little bit higher. I would love some diffusion walls around my desk, some temporary walls to kind of diffuse the sound, to get rid of the barking dogs from time to time and the other things that I can't control. But that's where it is. So, I'm looking to the future, Amazon wish list, things like that. I'll probably eventually have into descriptions. I've got a lot of things I want to put into the description of every video, and so that's where I'm at. But I have to, because of the autism, because of the hypersensitivity management, because of a lot of those things, sometimes I have to back off and relax and just enjoy life. And I don't spend as much time working on the channel as I would like. I have to work a full-time job, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at. People say, why don't you buy this and buy that? Because I'm broke, babe. It's like, once I reach the threshold of what my job is capable of, the extra money isn't there. And that's why the channel has to kind of be self-supporting as far as development and things like that. So that's where I'm at. About me personally, I think the comment I've gotten the most over the last month is, I can't believe that you were a pastor. How could a pastor lose their faith? This is a frequently asked question. Now, I could go and tell you, go watch my deconversion story, but I get that it's very long. But, and I'm going to answer another question. What kind of real experiences did you have with Christianity over 40 years? I don't know. I was Christian for 40 years, okay? I was a Pentecostal believer for pretty much 3/4 of that, okay? So experience was a big thing, okay? I had altar experiences. I had, word of wisdom, word of knowledge, spoken tongues, saw quote-unquote healing, saw quote-unquote miracles, gift of prophecy, interpretation, the gift of faith, you name it in the list of spiritual gifts in 1 Corinthians. I saw it, I experienced it. Some of them, a lot of them I did. Okay. How could a pastor lose their faith? I don't know. You study the Bible and you realize how flawed it is and how not divine it is. Okay. There's an old adage, that the Bible is one of the best causes for atheism. Just, study it, really take it for what it says, and you immediately begin to have problems. And my problems with the Bible, with my Christian experiences, started in Bible college. The questions that developed and got worse over time, to the point that when I finally became a congregational minister and had a time to really deep dive those questions, the answers were bad. Okay. It doesn't matter how deep you are in leadership, you can lose your faith because you start to look at reality. The Clergy Project has had more than 1,000 people go through its program. These are former ministers who have departed from their faith to the point that you no longer believe in any gods or goddesses. This isn't people that leave the faith and go into some spiritual woo. This is people that leave the faith and become agnostics agnostic atheist or gnostic atheist. Okay, they're an atheist in some way, shape, or form. That's a big shift. But these are not people that just depart Christianity or depart Islam. These are people, this is over 1,000 of those, just those. We're not even counting the people that do leave the faith and go into some kind of woo or change religions or whatever, which happens a lot too with ministers. Why is that? I don't know, because they're the closest ones to the religion and they realize the flaws, the deception, and the stuff of it, and they bring themselves out of it. Okay, you shouldn't be surprised by that. Okay, what's more surprising is when somebody in the pew does that. Okay, because they don't have all the knowledge that usually a pastor typically has about their faith, or a Muslim cleric or any of that stuff has about their faith. And so it's easier to say, well, I just have this little compartmentalized religion thing part of my life. But when a person deep dives a religion, it should not be surprising to you that when they're the ones that say, whoa, this is bad, and pull out of it. I get a few questions every once in a while about my relationship status. I got a couple about, are you married? What does your wife think about this? I am no longer married. I've been divorced for 2.5 years. My divorce was final September 21st of 2021. I've been single since then. I am heterosexual, as I mentioned before, possibly polyamorous, trying to get over purity culture, blockages to having good relationships, plus, dealing with my autism and my hypersensitivity issues. I am looking for a life partner at present, but open to other things, I suppose. As a libertarian and as an atheist, I have a lot of problems with marriage in general because I think marriage is a very religious and legalized concept that the state doesn't need to be involved in anyway. And a lot of marriage things are very religious. There's a lot of religious expectations out of marriage. So I'm not necessarily looking to get hitched again, but I am looking to have a life partner in my life that we can work on life together, or even more if the poly thing seems to work out. I don't know. Okay, that's up to a lot of things. Some of my interests. It's interesting how many musicians I have as subscribers to this channel. Every time I look up a few of you guys, you tend to be involved in music. And that's very interesting because I am very eclectic in my music. I get asked that a lot. What are my favorite music, movies, books, stuff like that in different contexts. I am a big science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy kind of guy. My favorite authors are Robert Heinlein, Jim Butcher, Tolkien, and a few others that I have read over the years. I'm a Harry Potter fan, a few other things like that. So, that kind of, that to me, that's a good place for escapism because we all realize that that's not real. Okay, and I also like science fiction because it looks to the future, and a lot of science fiction is social in nature. It's making social commentary. So, there's a lot of things. What would you do if suddenly humanity had this ability? Has been a long time question. As far as movies go, I used to have The Godfather up here. I miss The Godfather, but the poster got broken and ripped, and so I had to switch out to Odin back there. Which equally, I love that kind of mythology and things like that. I was a comic book freak as a kid, so the Marvel thing worked out. A lot of my hobbies, I'm a gamer, both board games and computer. Dungeons and Dragons is a part of my life, although I don't have a group at present. I do want one that's a good social outlet for me. Personally, I'm very routine oriented, but weightlifting is part of my life for fitness. I'm also very much focused on diet, keeping my carb level low, and because I have to, there's other issues of hypersensitivity and autism there, having the right diet. Happen to be a very heavy carnivore kind of guy. I don't really have any morality questions. I realize that morals, to me, animal rights is very much an aesthetic thing, morality, and has very little to do with actual intellectualizing it. I'm a hiker, camper. Me and my father used to hunt, but I don't do any hunting anymore and don't do much fishing anymore. Just don't want to take the time to do it. Don't have anything morally against it. Kind of goes with the politics thing. Like I said, I'm a classical libertarian. Often I do not vote, even though I have a political science degree, because I realize when you really intellectualize it, how useless the individual vote is. And people talk about wasting votes, and it's like, yeah, you waste votes a lot of times. And if you look at it economically, there's only two votes that actually matter. One that causes a tie with some sort of system to break it, and one who breaks a tie. Those are the only votes that matter. And you don't really know if you have those votes. The most significant votes that are cast in this country, for instance, are by the Supreme Court, because each one of those has 1/9 of the power. Let's see, that's kind of my politics in a nutshell. I'm becoming more apolitical, honestly, really. I just deal with it. I guess that's the Stoic in me coming out. I am a very much follower of Stoic philosophy. What I can do about things. The big one is to focus on the things that you can change and pretty much ignore the things that you can't really do much about. Try to influence things as much as possible, but when you realize that your influence is at an end, time to go work on something else. And that's been a big thing. I talk about autism and hypersensitivity a lot because I was recently diagnosed. I'm going to get into that story here this week when I hit my reconstruction story for 2023. That's one of the big revelations to me this past year. So I talk about that a lot because I realize how much it affects my life. Let's see. I currently work at the world's largest brick and mortar. If you don't know who that is, look it up. I try not to mention the name of them because I work for them and I don't want to be connected to that in a negative way where I get in trouble at work because I need my job. I'm trying to develop a new prototype for a new career, but mostly I keep coming back to writing, so I'm kind of pushing that. So just having enough finances to support my life is kind of my big issue right now. I write a lot of fiction, novels and things, short stories, poems. I've been writing on my blog, The Gray Wayfarer, for a long time, although I haven't written on it this year yet very much. But I'm getting ready to start doing so again. A lot of my writing is focused on atheist and deconversion issues. Outside of that, I'm trying to get my deconversion story into a book form and printed, hopefully within the next year or so. But once again, autism, hypersensitivity, sometimes I have to get away from that. Other frequently asked questions. Family, as I said, I'm divorced. I was married for 32 years. In a quote-unquote Christian marriage, not anymore. I also have 3 wonderful kids, 8 wonderful grandchildren. They're the best grandchildren in the world. You can't convince me otherwise. My kids have all turned out pretty good, and we have good relationships with each other, and so that's a positive. As you can expect for grown-up kids that live their own lives, and so I'm happy with them. Good relationship with my mom, even though she's a Christian, and I really go along that. A lot of the comments this week have been, as long as you're respectful. That's probably another frequent. What is my attitude towards believers today? And I think mine is different. And I think it's because I was a Christian for so long and I was a pastor for so long. I know what it's like to be in that deluded state. Okay, and so I am much more empathic towards people in the faith, I think, than a lot of atheist channels. I am much more, I understand, okay, what it's like to be that and what it's like to be on this side now. Okay, so I do get mad with theists when they don't show a lot of understanding towards atheists because I am trying my best to continue to have my empathy and my reaching out to them. Okay, so, that's kind of the issue for me in this channel is trying to focus, because I write, I think, or I have my opening video. If you first get to this channel, I give you my 5 reasons why you should hit the subscribe button, right? And one of those is, if you're a theist and you're struggling with faith, I'm here to push you off the edge. Okay, I'm going to push your ideas and your beliefs, but I'm going to try to be respectful about it. And I expect the same respect in the comments. I expect the same level of intensity, in the sense of giving people the fact that we're human and we're all searching. Okay, the only attitude problem I really have with most theists is when they have this attitude of they think they've arrived at the truth and somehow in their ego they can't get over that. Okay, that's usually when the problems start and the name calling starts. I don't tolerate name calling very long. Okay, I'll warn you. There are, I think at present, 9 people that you can't see their comments because I blocked them. And the reason is that's the nature of their comments, is they were just, coming at people. If you come at some of the people that are struggling with deconversion on this channel and just try to re-proselytize them, basically, I will block you. Okay? This is their place to be brave about their deconversion and talk about those issues. And they need to do it without pressure from you. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about the things in my background. I think I mentioned the staff. I got that at the Renaissance Festival in Texas. A lot of the pictures I bought, the quote from Aristotle about habits, I keep up there for my own reminder. There's actually more stuff farther above my head to the ceiling, including my lion's pennant and a few other things. On my shelves are some of the books that I've read and enjoyed. Skulls and ravens tend to be my thing, wolves and ravens and things like that. I just find them aesthetically pleasing, the same reason I read the necklaces. That's a common question. The ducks back there are from my time in teaching. There is also a collar from a dog up there. That is from my old dog Gabriel, who died, 5-6 years ago now, and who I still remember with a lot of fondness. He was part of my life for about 15 years. And a member of the family, and I still have his old collar up there as well. So I think some of you can see the half plaque over there from my time as a school board member here in the local school system. I did that for about 3.5-4 years. I was also a school board member for the local ISD, so for a couple of years. And been involved in 3 superintendent changes. So I know that process pretty well. I've been on a lot of sides of the education thing, as some of my careers besides pastor. Worked for the largest brick and mortar for probably over 10 years, if you put them all together. I enjoy what I'm doing now, and I enjoy the people I work with, and it's a stress-free job in the sense that when I clock out, I don't bring it home with me, and I need that right now from an emotional, mental point of view. And this channel is helping with, once again, expressing things, and losing that ability to express myself, I think, was a big problem that I had, and it's good to have all of you. I think that's it for the frequently asked questions. I'll start dealing with more specific comments next time. What's on tap for this week? I'm reacting to Pastor Joe's reaction to Atheist as kind of a follow-up to the video last week. Tuesday, I'll be talking about how Pentecostals view leadership because of the book of Acts and some of the other passages in scriptures. Wednesday, I'll, of course, be moving on to prayer as one of the spiritual disciplines. And then Thursday, I have another question about God. I haven't really determined what that is yet, but another question to provoke thoughts and discussion. And then, of course, Friday, I'll be finishing up my Reconstruction story with a discussion on 2023. And so this is Rabyd Reflections for February 3rd, actually, for this year. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're doing your best to give your time, your money, your talent to yourself, the people that you love and care for, and to make this a better world. And don't give it to the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.